welcome to Market Fatafat with me Ankita Saxena and with me is Shrishti Sharma, and this is the show where we take you through all the buzzers in trade today that are buzzing away either on the back of news flow or on the back of technical charts. But first, before we get started with the show, let's take you through how the markets are panning out. As of now, Shrishti, recovery coming in on the markets. In fact, we were flip-flopping between the red and the green. In fact, we have at least managed to touch those 24,000 levels that we have been, finding it so difficult to scale today. But finally, on the Nifty, we have touched 24,000 levels, and on Nifty Bank also a good recovery of almost 192 odd points from the day's lows is coming on Nifty Bank as well.
Well, certainly, Ankita, and what a surprise coming in for the benchmark indices, and a cheer for all the bulls out there, because by tick, you can see the Nifty Bank building on to the gains, and Nifty Bank having around 600 points of gains right now. And look at the move in all these large cap names, from the likes of IndusInd Bank, that is leading with almost 2% of the gains. Axis Bank 1.8% gain, even stronger than that. HDFC Bank, that heavyweight, is also bucking up the trend with 1.5% of the gains. And not just that, look at the move in the PSU banking stocks, because we just highlighted yesterday during the show itself, it was just during that time where all these PSU banking counters from the likes of SBI, BOB, they will start building onto the gains. And all these counters, even today and now, are at trading at the day's highest point. In the Bank Nifty Index, it's just two counters, AU Small Finance Bank and Federal Bank, that are seeing some bit of a decline as of now. But wouldn't be a surprise if we see those counters back in green once again. If we talk about Nifty 50, then that too has flip-flopped from the red to a green territory now, and 70 points of gain is what we are seeing on that particular index. And also pull up the charts for Reliance Industries as well, because that is trading at the day's highest point, above some of the key resistance levels, and especially that 1300, not at the day's highest point, I beg your pardon, but still has come off the day's lowest point, and indeed moving on to the green side. Other than that, it's the metal pack that is shining bright. Stock like JSW Steel, Tata Steel, Hindalco, they are the top gainers in Nifty 50 today. And a lot of these auto counters that were definitely in the reverse gear in the last couple of weeks have now shifted the gear. Stocks like Bajaj Auto, even Maruti Suzuki are the top gainers in Nifty 50. So Ankita, great moves coming in on the benchmark indices, and really surprising moves on Nifty Bank Index.
Absolutely, high volatility in the market, Shrishti. It's just the tables just turn around any time, and also it is because of the fact that the US presidential elections are underway, and the results are yet to come out. So markets are really waiting and watching out for that. But let's get started with the shows, and let's shift focus to all the stocks that are in news today. And for that, we're joined by Osho Krishan, who's a senior analyst, technical and derivative researcher, Angel One on the technicals, and from our research team, we are joined by Ria. Hi, good afternoon to you both. Let's get started with all the stocks then that are in focus today. First up is Gland Pharma. Now, this stock was soaring away 12% in trade today, after the company reported. Let's look at the results first, and then we'll talk about why the stock is doing well. The company has reported a 15.7% year-on-year decline in the net profit, which has come in at 163.5 crores. For the second quarter of FY25, and in the corresponding quarter of the previous fiscal, Gland Pharma had posted a net profit of 194 crores. Now, revenue from operation has increased 2.4% to 1,400 crores against 1,373 crores in the corresponding period of the preceding fiscal. Now, on the operating level, the EBITDA has dipped 8.4% to 297 crores in the second quarter of this fiscal, over 324 crores in the quarter two of the previous fiscal. Now, Kotak Institutional Equity has upgraded the stock to reduce from its previous sell rating, and has raised the target price from 1,460 to 1,625. Now, the reason why the stock is giving good moves is because the stock has already corrected 24% over the past 3 months and delivered flat returns over the past year, compared to the 50% gain on Nifty Pharma, which Kotak Institutional Equity believes it limits further downside for this particular counter. Also, the brokerage has raised Gland's FY25-27 EBITDA estimates by 2% each on account of higher base business margins. But on the flip side, Goldman Sachs is maintaining a sell on Gland Pharma with a target price of 1,450 rupees per share, and that's why Gland Pharma is in focus today.
All right, then that's about Gland Pharma. But let's also move on and put the spotlight on Bajaj Auto, because in the last couple of weeks, the stock was actually hammered because what the company highlighted a while back is the slowness in the festive season sale is what they were expecting. But given the fact in the October sales data, the numbers were actually in line to the estimates. The street was estimating around 4.8 lakhs of units to be sold in the month of October, and the numbers pretty well came just in line to the street estimates. But when we spoke with the management of Bajaj Auto, they do mention that it's been a slower start to the festive season sales, but absolutely on track to outpace the industry growth when it comes to the full year growth guidance. Other than that, the festive season has provided a boost to the sales. Non-metro performance has been much superior to the metro segment, and the underlying sentiment is seen to be positive. On the back of this news flow and the management commentary, this stock is in focus today.
All right, moving on. Coming to you, Osho, you've picked out City Union Bank for us. In fact, as we speak, a sharp spike up coming in on the stock. But last 6 months, it has given 11% gains. In fact, it has moved pretty decently well in the last 1 month. Over 16% move is what it's giving. Tell us what is the upside on this one? And in fact, it is heading towards its 52-week high. It's almost hovering around its 52-week high right now. What is the further upside for this?
Very good afternoon to both of you. Well, firstly, coming to the technical aspect of CUB, then this counter, as you have mentioned, has seen a very strong up move from the zone of nearly 152 towards hovering around the zone of 180 now. So we have seen a strong breakout in this counter around the zone of 172 in the last week, and since then this counter is hovering at a higher levels. So I'm expecting, as we have witnessed a consolidation breakout in this counter, so the next immediate target for short-term perspectives comes around the zone of 192 to 196. So this stock has potential to test 196 in a short-term perspective, and the time it breaches the zone of 200 on the higher end, then from there onwards we can see a decisive up move in this counter, but that is from medium-term perspective. For short-term, 196 is the target that I am expecting in this counter. There has been a very strong V-shaped recovery, and the momentum really is very strong in CUB for the time.
All right, moving on from City Union Bank on the charts to ABB India, which is one of the biggest losers in trade today on the back of its results. It's trading with cuts of almost 5%. Ria, take us through the snapshot of the earnings.
ABB India has posted quite a weak set of earnings in Q3 of CY24. Now, on the revenue side, we've seen an uptick of around 5.5%, but this was muted versus our expectations of a 19% year-on-year growth. We've also seen a miss on the profitability side as well. The net profit has gone up around 21%, and the EBITDA has gone up 23% versus our expectations of a 31% and 34% growth respectively. So a miss coming in there as well. Although on the margin side, on the EBITDA margins, we've seen a beat since the margins have come in at 18.6% versus 15.8% in the last quarter. So an uptick of around 271 basis points there. Even on the order inflow side, they've seen a growth of around 11.5%, which continues to have, and they also continue to have a strong order backlog of rupees 9,995 crores, which is up 25% compared to the previous year. And going forward, the management does continue to be positive about the overall outlook, although they have said that the ongoing crisis in West Asia needs to be monitored closely. And reacting to these weak earnings, the stock is seeing a bit of quite a lot of selling pressure, actually trading with cuts of almost 5% as we speak.
Alright, then that's about ABB India, but let's move on and let's talk about Laurus Lab. Osho, that's the next counter that you're tracking. Take us through how is the technical setup looking like for this stock?
Overall, this counter is into a very strong cycle of higher highs, higher lows on weekly and monthly time frame. Recently, the stock has even corrected from the highs of nearly 515 towards its 200-day SMA, and again have started gaining strong traction. So I'm expecting that from here onwards, the base or the support base is very nearby, approximately around the zone of 460 to 470, while on the higher end, a fresh breakout above 510 can give a very strong boost to this counter towards the zone of 545 for short-term perspective. So overall trajectory is very bullish. It is in the verge of giving a gradual higher highs, higher lows kind of a pattern. So one should definitely try to gauge momentum in this counter from medium-term investment perspective.
Right, but before we move on to the news coming in from the US elections, it's a recovery of 880 points, 1.7% on Nifty Bank route. Now, look at the sharp uptick that Nifty Bank has given just now. In fact, like I mentioned, we have recovered from the day's lows. The recovery is more than 880 points on Nifty Bank right now. But we'll move on to the news coming in on the US presidential elections that's underway. It is in the final lap with both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump making final pitches in the closing hours. It promises to be a cracker of a contest with both the candidates tied in key battleground states. Let's go across and get you a ground report from my colleague Malvika Jain on how's the final day of polls faring and what is it suggesting and which way is the election really headed.
Well, that's right. Today is election day here in the US, and people will be casting their vote formally. Some people have already sent in their votes through the mail-in ballots, but today is the formal voting day. This is a tight race. Both the candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, have been heavily campaigning. The poll results have been showing that it is a neck-to-neck race, as we have also been reporting. The key issues in this election are the economy, immigration, and abortion rights. The entire battle has shifted to 7 key swing states. And today also we saw both Trump and Harris campaigning in the state of Pennsylvania. Harris's focus has been on door-to-door campaigning, whereas Trump has been focusing on holding large rallies. Now, it remains to be seen who the winner will be in this presidential election, and we might have to wait for several days before a formal announcement is made.
All right then, but with this fears, it's time to slip into a very short break. But before we go, we also caught up with some experts on what they make of the elections and its impact on India. Let's go across and listen.
The impact on India, if Kamala Harris wins, there'll be a fairly safe and boring outcome. More of the same is what you are going to see. If Trump wins and the Republicans win both houses, then you can see some really radical changes. There'll be a lot of wind in Mr. Trump's sails. If you get very high tariffs from him, then typically there will be retaliation from China, retaliation from Europe, retaliation from India. We retaliated in Trump's first time to his things. And the problem is that if we retaliate, then Mr. Trump may retaliate further. I mean, there is a real danger of a all-out trade war. I think if Trump wins and the Republicans win both houses of Congress, then the markets will get rather nervous as to what is going to be the outcome.
2 specific points that would drive markets would be potential tariff risks on a Republican sweep, potential increased fiscal issuances on a Republican sweep, and higher risk premia on both FX and rates. And there will have to be some probability that you assign to maybe a 60% import tariffs from China and 10% to the rest of the world. Whether it happens or not is immaterial to what market action would be. We think that in that scenario, the dollar could be up by probably another 4 to 5% from current levels, and treasury yields could also be up quite substantially from here. India being a bit of a risk-off currency within the emerging market framework could be an outperformer.
And whether we get a Republican clean sweep or not, presuming the congressional houses are split, then the presidency will have perhaps a bit less influence than it might if we had a Republican clean sweep. But certainly, as much as we understand about the policies of the 2 candidates, the 2 starkest kind of macroeconomic differences between the likely budget deficits and on the tariff side. It seems likely that a Trump presidency would be more expansionary on the budget side, and a Trump presidency would be much more activist on the tariff side.
Huge deficit when we are talking of spending. And right now, there's a range of economists who said both Kamala's plan and Trump's plan are likely to increase the deficit, but Trump's plan by an order of magnitude more than Kamala's plan. And this is about 30 to 40 economists who've come out and basically given this opinion.
Welcome back. You're tuned into Market Fatafat, where we are taking you through all the stocks that are in news today. And let's resume then. Our stock that is in focus on the back of the earnings is IRCTC. The stock is in focus because the consolidated net profit rose 4.47% to 307 crores in Q2 of FY25 as compared to 294 crores posted in Q2 of FY24. Now, the revenue from operations grew 7.2% to 1,064 crores in Q2 as compared to 992 crores reported in on a year-on-year basis. Now, the profit before tax stood at 416 crores in Q2 of FY25, registering a growth of 5.4% from 395 crores on a year-on-year basis. Now, the total expenses jumped 9.7% on a year-on-year basis to 707 crores in Q2. Meanwhile, the company's board has also declared a dividend of 4 rupees per share for the financial year 2024-25 and has set the record date of 17th November 2024 for that. And on the back of that, IRCTC is trading with gains of almost 1% in trade.
All right, then that's about IRCTC, but let's also talk about Exide Industries, because this counter did come out with the earnings yesterday. The earnings were during the markets, and then earnings were actually in line to the street estimates, largely in line, I would say, but it was a miss for a couple of brokerages. If we talk about the brokerages, then post the earnings and the commentary, the brokerages are not that positive, and especially from the likes of Citi, where they continue maintaining their buy stance but have cut the target price from 600 rupees earlier to 540 rupees now. What Citi is saying that the Q2 EBITDA was slightly below their estimates. The other income did help the profit figure to go higher. The management did highlight strong demand in the replacement auto and industrial UPS and the solar segments, but they await more clarity on the core demand trends as well as any possible details regarding client onboarding for the lithium ion cell plant. So that was about Exide Industries. The stock was actually down in trade today, but with the markets recovering, the stock is also seeing good recovery from the day's lowest points, almost on its way to turn green, but for now it's having a cut of around 0.6%.
All right, that's Exide Industries. But moving on to JSW Steel Osho, that's the top Nifty gainer for today. In fact, the entire metal pack is in focus today on the back of the anti-dumping duty on steel that is likely to rise 12% from an earlier 7.5%. On the back of that news flow, the metal pack is in focus today, specifically JSW Steel. But on the charts, what are you penciling in for this counter?
This counter has seen a very strong upsurge movement from the zone of 860 towards 1060, and in the last 3 to 4 trading weeks, this counter has seen a decent correction from the higher levels towards 920, 930 odd levels. And in today's session, we are witnessing a very strong upside movement of consolidation breakout on the daily time frame, which augurs very well for a retestment of the breakout zone. So I'm expecting that from here onwards, 920, 940 zone should be acting as a very strong support for this counter, and this counter can gradually move towards the zone of 1040, 1050 in the short-term period. So I expect that this momentum should continue in maybe a week or so. So one should definitely try to gauge momentum for a higher target of 1040, keeping a stop loss around 940 odd levels.
All right, that's about JSW Steel. Moving on then, and Ria talked to us about Bharat Forge. This stock is also in focus on the back of the news flow. Tell us more on that.
Forge has actually emerged as the lowest bidder for a rupees 6,000 crore contract to supply an advanced towed artillery gun systems to the Indian Army, receiving 60% of the order, with the remaining 40% to be allocated to Tata Advanced Systems Limited, provided that they match Bharat Forge's bid price. Now, this indigenous artillery system, which is developed by the DRDO or the Defence Research and Development Organization, marks a very significant step towards self-reliance in defense manufacturing. And reacting to this positive news flow, the stock has spiked up around 1.5% right now. So we're definitely keeping an eye out on the stock on the back of this big order win coming in for Bharat Forge.
All right, moving on from Bharat Forge to Osho, you've picked out TCS for us. Tell us what are you seeing on the charts for TCS? Hardly given any moves. In fact, in the last 1 month, it has been in a consolidation mode. Tell us, is this time for this counter to start moving now?
See, overall, as you have mentioned, that it has been into a corrective phase in the recent period from the highs of 45.50 and towards hovering at the lows of nearly 39.70, 39.80 odd levels. But on technical front, there are two very positive developments that can be seen. Firstly, the counter on the technical parameters have entered the oversold territory. Second, it is nearing its previous breakout zone, which is approximately around the zone of 3900. So I expect that from here onwards, this counter can see a formation of a strong base for itself, and then again can witness a gradual up movement in the coming period. So one should try to accumulate it in a staggered manner from investment point of view at current levels, and I am expecting that in the short term period 4300 should be the target, and once it breaches the zone of 4300, then again it can retest the zone of 4500 to 4550 from short to medium term time frame.
All right, then that's about TCS. Hoping for a bounce on this IT major. But with this, it's time to once again hit a small break. But before we go, let's also mark the market movement, because it's just not just Nifty Bank that is building onto the gains, that's holding on to 650 points of gain, but even Nifty 50 moving above that 24,100 mark as well and holding a gains of more than 100 points right now. So great moves on the markets, but with this, it's time to slip into a very short break. Viewers, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.